Hello and welcome to the Journal. I'm Steve Kendall. The Wood County Museum's goal and mission is to connect the past, present, and future by capturing the stories of Wood County and the county home. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Marissa Muniz and Holly Kirkendall. Right now in our opening segment, we have Kelly Kling, the director of the Wood County Museum.
Hi.
And welcome. And Kelly, I know that like a lot of organizations and places that live with events and provide events and do all of that, you guys have had to adjust and close down for a short amount of time and then come back up again at the Wood County Museum. So talk about how that's gone, the transition. First of all, having to close, which is something you guys don't do at all. And so that was, how did you go about doing that, and how have you now managed getting back into what level of activity is now allowed in the state?
Well, like everyone else, it's been a challenge, and we've all had to kind of think on our feet and figure out the best way to move through the pandemic. Luckily for us, we have a little bit of history under our belt. So we have an entire exhibit in our pestilence house on the pandemic of 1918. So we had a little bit to draw from, which helped us, of course. But what's been interesting is, you know, of course it's a challenge, and we didn't like to be closed. We certainly weren't able to get our visitors in. We had a new exhibit that opened earlier this year, called Utopia, and it wasn't open for very long before we had to close our doors. So it was interesting though to see how we could be creative. So while we were closed, we took advantage of that time to sort of flip the inside of the museum, to bring in a new exhibit and to sort of reformat what was already there, so that when people did come back starting in July, they could see something that was kind of new and fresh, and they were able to walk through the museum in a different way.
Right.
In addition to that, we put some of our exhibits online, so things that couldn't be seen during the closure
We're still available to everybody.
Would still be available to everybody. And then our very creative staff also came up with the idea of having an outdoor porch exhibit. We have these beautiful porches, which are featured in our new branding.
Sure.
And we really wanted to highlight that. So we have recycled some of our older exhibits that were out in previous years, and we put those outside on the porch so that anyone could come. We're on a 50-acre site, so social distancing isn't a problem. People can come and look at that porch exhibit, and it was so popular that we've extended it throughout the year as well. So you'll see a few more coming rotating throughout the summer.
Yeah, because people wanted to find things to do that they could do safely and within the guidelines and feel comfortable doing it, which was the challenge for everybody. It's one thing to say, yes, we're open, here's what we have, or here are some things you can do, but you had to, because people were a little bit reluctant at times to go out just because they didn't know what the circumstances might be. So you've kind of found something that now you can almost make a regular part of, that you never wasn't part of what you did in the past.
And that's typical for we've seen that with other pandemics in the past. We've seen where people get really creative with inventions, with medicine, and even with their social time. We have, like I said, a beautiful grounds, and our Lyle Fletcher Arboretum, which is maintained by the Wood County Park District, has been a great way for people to come out and still stretch their legs, to exercise, to walk their dogs, ride their bikes. So we've seen a lot more activity out on the grounds throughout the spring.
And the other thing is too, I guess, like a lot of places, obviously if you looked at your attendance stats from last year compared to this year, they're going to be down simply because there were those several months where nobody was allowed to do anything. But at the same time, it seems as if, you talked about the Arboretum, you talked about that. I know the Wood County Park System saw growth. So there were things that people said, oh, well, instead of going into the museum, let's do this. So it kind of averaged itself out a little bit. Obviously, not everybody was coming out in the same numbers, but you still found a purpose. People found a reason to come out and take part in the Wood County Museum. So that's good.
And one thing that we have seen through this is that our membership has been steady. So it's really wonderful to know that our membership, our members are still supporting what we do. They're appreciating the fact that we're thinking outside the box, that we're offering different things than we have before, and we're still trying to connect to the people with those experiences. We might be doing it in a different way, but we're still doing it. And what's also interesting is that we're getting new members. So people are seeing us on social media. We've been very active through Facebook and Instagram. and people are responding to that history. So we're starting to see memberships coming in. Of course, we welcome people to join as members and help support the society to help make up for some of the losses from the admission and the events. But there's going to be so many more great things that are coming ahead. So we really hope that people will see that we do have so much to offer our community, and we're there as a resource, and that they'll join and help support the museum.
Well, and I think, and one of the things it tells you too is that people value what you do, because they wouldn't be providing that sort of like, oh, hey, let's make sure we support them now. And I think that says something about what you folks have done in the past and what you're currently doing, that people feel like, we got to make sure this thing sticks around, and that we're supportive and all of that. So it speaks well to the success that you've had, and how people view the value of the Wood County Museum. So that's got to be, that makes you feel good, I'm sure, that people are there.
Yeah, it does.
Now, and I guess the other things, one of the things that you find out, and we found this out too, is that using online, you really learn some new things and some different ways to do things, and start to see how you can utilize that on a regular basis, as opposed to, as you said, doing the things you've done in the past. It allows you to you have to do some things differently, and you find out, oh, that works really well after all. So I think that's been the nice, if there has been one piece that's good about this, is we've learned a lot of new skills on how to get the message out and how to get things out to people, as opposed to it always being face-to-face. And you guys obviously have done a good job of that.
Well, and historically, we've seen that after other pandemics, after wars, that your community comes together and they get creative, they figure out ways to advance, how to help each other, how to serve each other. And so we knew that going into it, and it's kind of interesting to see how it all plays out and how it does come together. And sometimes you get surprised. You can think through a plan, but there's always that extra thing that sneaks up on you. And our community is very resourceful, and our staff as well, and I think everyone's really come together to listen to what people are asking for, what are people needing during this time, because obviously our community needs have changed, and that's what we're there to do. We have the resources available, and we're there to provide those resources that the community is asking for.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like you've navigated this really well and are coming out really strong on the opposite side. And we'll be talking with some of the other folks from the museum here in a few minutes about some of the things that are going on, and how you can go through the museum under these new circumstances that we currently have. So Kelly Kling, thank you so much. We'll be back in just a moment with another segment here on the Journal about the Wood County Museum. Be back in a moment. Thanks for staying with us here on the Journal. We're talking with some representatives from the Wood County Museum, and you might have known in the past it was called the Wood County Historical Center and Museum, but there's a rebranding underway, and here to kind of give us all the information about that is Marissa Muniz. And just talk about this rebranding, because that's what people have known your organization as and that facility as, but let's talk about that and how you came to that conclusion that was the way to change the name, I guess, basically, among other things.
Yeah. So it kind of came about, it was about a year-long process of us, really thinking about it and kind of doing our research to see, what this would look like for us. And so, we looked at other museums in our Northwest Ohio area, kind of what their historical museums were calling themselves. And, we also kind of looked at the current communications and technology, how people are receiving their news today.
Sure.
And most of that is with their smartphones. So you have a smaller screen now that you're looking at it. So Wood County Historical Center Museum kind of got to be a long name on that.
The handle,
Yes.
That fit on that,
And we kind of noticed too, people in our community were also shortening our name for us. They were referring to us as the Wood County Museum.
The museum, right.
So, we looked at a bunch of different things too, and, finally came down to the conclusion that, this would be a good thing for us, not only as an organization, but for our community as well. So it became a simplified name that everyone would know what they were talking about when it was being referred to. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course too, that gives you a chance too to get back in front of people by positioning that new name and that rebrand. It gives people, to remind people who may have, not that they forget that you're there, but it gives you a chance to get back in front of them and say, hey, in case you didn't know, here's who we are and here's what we do, and it gives you a chance to get in front of a whole new audience as well.
Yeah, we also kind of looked at the word, that specific word historical, even though that's who we are. The word historical sometimes can feel inclusive, where museum is
Yeah,
more
feels-
open and
Yeah.
might draw in those other people who might not necessarily think of history as the first thing that they want to see. But then when they get in, they see all these different things that we have to offer for them.
Okay. Yeah, and as I was talking with Kelly, you had events and things scheduled as you always do, all these great events throughout the year, and of course you lost March, April, May, and pretty much in June. So what were some of the things that you had planned to do during those times, and of course you hope to bring some of them back, but has it adjusted the way you look at events as well? I mean, if you talk about some of the things you normally do, would you look at doing them differently now when you have a chance next year to do those things from March, April, May, and June?
Yeah, so we do have events throughout our whole calendar year at the museum. So some of the things like that we had to cancel, unfortunately, were our Tea and Talk series, and that happens throughout the year. But that's it's a 70-person event, and all in our meeting room. And we looked at the demographic specifically of that event and thought, for the health and safety of all of our visitors and those attendees, that it was best to just go ahead and cancel that event for the year.
This time.
But we have plans to bring it back in 2021. But some of the events that we are able to put on this year are our Living History Day event. It's an event that occurs outside, so people can certainly feel safe with social distancing. It'll be on the front lawn of the museum this year. Typically, historically, it's at Oak Grove Cemetery in Bowling Green. But this year we decided to have it on the front lawn there at the museum. It's nice and shaded, so hopefully that helps.
Not that it's been warm this summer at all. No problem there.
So we're asking people to bring their own chairs this year, and space out and social distance on the grounds, and there'll be a sound system so everyone will be able to hear and enjoy that event as well.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful setting out there. I mean, no matter where you go, it is it's been so well restored and recreated there. Yeah, and with those events too, when you talk about that, when people come out to the museum, how are you handling the COVID-19 thing? So what kind of things should people know that they need to do when they get out there, and masks and things like that? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as you're walking up the front sidewalk, there are signs, kind of reminding you that, masks are required inside the building. It is a county building, and that's a county mandate. But just, there's hand sanitizer stations set up all throughout the museum for you to use as well. And just kind of general reminder, if you happen to be feeling sick that day, certainly please think about coming back a different day. Everything in the museum will still be there on a different day that, you can come and see. So we hope that by setting up those parameters of the masks and the hand sanitizer stations, and the fact that our building is quite large as well, that people naturally will be able to spread out and social distance while they're visiting.
Yeah. Now you reopened on July 6th, so just a couple of weeks ago. Has the response been good? Have you been happy with the response so far that we're open and people have come back?
Yeah, so visitors seem to be really receptive to coming back, and they're excited to come back. Everyone was kind of cooped up in their homes, and so they're looking for something to do, and we're very happy and thankful that we are able to reopen to the community for them to come through and visit, even with the the new parameters and safety in place.
Yeah, and I know that Kelly mentioned too that one of the exhibits which has been ongoing is how the Spanish flu pandemic of the 1819 1918, 1919 kind of affected Wood County. Has that been something that people have, noticed any more activity around that as people go, oh, because it was always interesting, but now we're actually living something not quite as drastic as that, but still a lot of similarities.
Yeah, so like that exhibit's located in our pest house building, which is one of the many outbuildings on our grounds. So yeah, I do think it's, and people find it interesting to go in there and read, people were going through the same thing that we're going through pretty much right now, and how they dealt with it then, and kind of relating that to their current lifestyles.
Okay, good. Is there anything else that you want to mention? You've got just about 30 seconds here in this segment that we've left out.
We are on social media, so if anyone wants to follow us, we post daily and different things, on Facebook and Instagram at Wood County Museum.
Okay, and you can see all the upcoming events that'll take place, and because we still have a lot of great weather, we've got months yet now where people can come out and enjoy the Wood County Museum. Well, thank you very much, Marissa. We'll be back in just a second. One more segment here on the Journal about the Wood County Museum. Back in a moment. Thank you for staying with us here on the Journal. We're talking with representatives from the Wood County Museum, and we've heard about the events they've been doing and the rebranding they've been doing. But we're joined now by Holly Kirkendall, the curator of the Wood County Museum. Talk a little bit about the role of the curator so that people know just how many things that encompasses. So talk a little about that, because I know we've got a lot of great things out there, but
Yes.
you're the curator. What does that mean?
Well, the fancy definition would be that I have the intellectual control over the message that we send about the educational material. So all the objects in our collection, our archives, or whatever. The day-to-day terms is I use the stuff to create exhibits so that people come to the museum. We have to have something, like I create the product, right? People need to come to the museum to see something. That is my job, to look at all that stuff and create interesting exhibits for people when they're walking through the museum.
Now, I'm sure people probably bombard you with great ideas for exhibits,
Yeah.
and some of them probably are good ideas, and some of them probably are like, well, that would draw some people, but
Yes.
you have to probably look for something that's going to be a little bit broad in appeal, right?
Well, this is what is so nice about working with 6 people. We have such a competent staff that a lot of what I do really is hand in hand with what Marissa does, with what Kelly does, with what Mike does, because it's not just putting exhibits out, you know, thinking about our audience. What is it that they want to see? How is Marissa going to market it? How is Kelly going to use that to gain both community and financial support for what we do currently, and then ongoing endeavors. And then, you know, Mike taking the educational talks out on the road, and then when people come into the museum. So we really all have to work together when we create these things. So it's never a singular role. It is definitely a team effort.
Group
yes.
effort to make that happen. What are some of the new exhibits or exhibits you're looking at or thinking about doing? And some of the ones you currently have, and then some that are maybe
Yes.
upcoming.
Well, usually in December after our gala, we take a break and I rearrange or I put new things out. But given having to be closed to the public, I took it as an opportunity to rethink, because we of course had For Comfort and Convenience, we've had that up, and that
Sure.
really is that's the history of the poorhouses in the state of Ohio, which I'm happy to say that has won 4 awards, 3 state,
Congratulations.
the Ohio
Wow.
Local History Alliance, Ohio Museums Association, Ohio Historic Preservation Office, and then a national award from the American Association for State and Local History. And so obviously that's crucial to our story. So we kept that up, but I consolidated it to the 2nd floor of the west and the center wing. So it's in its entirety, but it was just made smaller. And then of course Utopia opened in February,
Yeah,
but then we
which-
had to close. And that exhibit encompasses Wood County in the now, using photography in coordination with celebrating Wood County's 200th anniversary of becoming a county. So those prints are available for sale, and we've already received a great response. Taylor Ayers was our photographer, and she did such a wonderful job of really capturing the essence of Wood County. So obviously COVID affects us as
sure.
much as it affects everyone. Financially, exhibits are they're costly, and so I really wanted to think about what is something that we could do that's going to draw in people, but is not going to necessarily cost us a lot of money. Because of course, it's not just creating the exhibit; it's using our graphic designer, it's the printing. So people like photos, and we have thousands of photos. And so what I did is in the East Wing on the 1st floor of the museum, we installed, we got very creative. I can't thank my coworker Daniel enough for helping me with the power tools and hanging things. We got very creative in our wood shop, and are exhibiting over 1,000 photos of Wood County. Donated photos, people, places, and things are what we're calling it. Our videographer, Zach Karloff, is going to be creating some videos we're putting on our Facebook and other social media platforms to talk. That would be like a live action interpretation to talk about the things that you're going to find when you come there. Marissa's been doing a great job of posting the photos on Facebook, and it's been getting a lot of response. And so you asked me what my job as curator is. Part of it is taking care of that collection. And so many of those things that have been there for years, they're not identified. And so this is also another opportunity to get people engaged, is if you know who's in the picture, or you know the place, or you know the thing, hey,
help
let me
us out.
know.
Yeah,
So-
call us, email us, do whatever.
Exactly, let us
Yeah,
know.
get us on social media, say, I know that person in that photo. Yeah.
Yes, because that's the best part of my job, was when you make those connections with people who know the people or the place, and it conjures that memory, and it gets people excited about what we do, then we've done our job.
Sure, yeah, and then you've documented it. Now everyone can say, yes, now we know what that is. Because, you know, know when you go through photos, no one ever bothers, because everybody will always remember
Yes.
who was in the photo. We all know that we will.
Yep.
And then 10, 20, 30 years later, here's a box of photos, and nobody knows who that, well, it sort of looks like so-and-so, or I think that was taken there, but there's you flip it over, nothing on the back. So it's a challenge.
And that's the point. The exhibit, when you come in, it's a little bit overwhelming, and that's kind of the point. The idea is we all have photo albums that are unidentified, or people who could have told us this, they're long gone. And so hopefully, if you don't see it all in one trip, you know, that inspires you to become a member and come back several times to look at all the photos.
Well, and that's probably the case too, where if you went there 5 times, you would see something, you'd find something
Yes.
different each time. You'd say, oh, I didn't
Yes.
notice that the last time I was here.
Yes.
Look at that. And I think that's the wonderful thing about, the nice thing is you've got all of that material. The downside is you've got all that material, because it's the same thing when you have that archives like that. Being able to put it out there in a way that people can enjoy it, as you've described now, is the greatest thing in the world to be able to do.
It is. I haven't, but you know, I wasn't able to do text panels with heavy interpretation, but this type of exhibit doesn't really need that.
Yeah.
It's more about conversation. And so there is an opportunity for people to leave feedback. I've covered a table with some white paper, and we'll have a question, and you can leave feedback. And we do have videos. Actually, the overall purpose or the inspiration, even before COVID, was I love PBS, and I watch a lot of Finding Your Roots.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank you.
genealogy really interests people. It helps them feel such a connection in a personal way. And at the Wood County Museum, we have such a great connection with the Wood County Genealogy Society. Many of their members are our members. We do a lot of crossover, a lot of work together. Some of their members have been on our board, and so we like to promote how local history, genealogy go together.
All connected.
You know, you don't necessarily need to have advanced degrees to understand. This is not just history, this is the humanities, this is how we're all connected. And so when I have some Finding Your Roots videos playing in this exhibit, we've also decided to play some history detectives too,
okay.
because object-based history really interests people. And so while you're in viewing the pictures, you can also see how we're using historical interpretation in a personal level.
And connecting it to the, localizing it, connecting it, all of that, Now, it's interesting when you said, you didn't do a lot of text-heavy things, and in a way, maybe that's a good thing, because it makes people think. They have to, instead of being said, oh, that's what this is, they have to look at it and go, gee, I wonder, oh, wait a minute. It gets them thinking, as you said, it conjures up, oh, yeah. So I think that's probably a way to sort of tease them into thinking about the photo more, maybe, than if you had a caption underneath it that said exactly who it was and what it was. So that works both ways.
Well, and for comfort and convenience is so text heavy, because there's so much information about the poorhouse system in the state of Ohio, and it's so, it's so interesting. So that if people go upstairs and they learn about what the site was and how it fits into a larger picture, then they can come downstairs and maybe even feel a greater sense of community, because Wood County was so fortunate to have such a well-run institution for so many years, and that the commissioners were smart enough to save that building and allow it to be turned into a museum.
Right. Now, do you get people asking if they can bring things out to you?
Actually, it's funny. With COVID, people have been obviously cleaning out closets. We get a lot of requests for donations. So the process is, if you want to donate a object to the Wood County Museum, you would need to email me at curator@woodcountyhistory.org with photos and a brief description. We have a collections policy and a collections committee, so it's not my decision alone. It's up to 7 people. And there's some factors that we have to consider, because of course we've been collecting for nearly 50 years. There's space considerations, conservation, does it fit within our mission? It comes to me first if I think it might be a good fit. We do all of our collections committee meetings via email, so it takes about a week. I am in contact with the committee with your photos and your brief bio. I am back in contact with you if we've decided to accept it. We ask that you please do not bring anything to the museum before you've contacted me. It just makes the process a little easier. Once I say yes, you bring it, I then will take the object, create the instrument of gift, and mail it to you. You sign the yellow copy, send it back. It's the document that says it's ours,
Yeah, great. Yeah, because I'm sure people. I'm sure they'd love this out at the museum.
Yes.
And you've got 15,000 of them already.
Yes,
That's the thing.
it is very important that people contact us first before they bring it out. Yeah, we have thousands of things, and some things we have in duplicate, and some of it does have to do with storage and conservation, and so we appreciate it. And I don't like to leave people empty-handed, so if you really want to donate it somewhere, I can maybe help you find a place that might want to take it.
An
Yes.
alternative. Yeah, great. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You've really given us a lot of great insight into how things get from the initial idea to the
Yeah.
presentation and how that message has gotten out to everybody else, so people can take advantage of it. So great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. And we appreciate you sticking around for this journal. You can check us out at WBGU.org, and of course you can watch Journal on WBGU PBS every Thursday at 8 o'clock. We'll see you again next time on The Journal.